Tell me now. Let's get to the story. I really enjoyed the film, by the way. I just wanted to say that. It was a tonic, and I like that kind of little playing with the dark forces kind of film. But you created a wonderful, disturbing mood, and I also don't like calling it a horror film, to be quite honest. I
No,
think
I have no problem with calling it a horror film. It's a character-driven horror film. It is driven by characters, and it's about a situation, and it is dealing with metaphysical subjects as much as it is about scares. And that's where some of the horror comes from.
For me, it's where most of it. I mean, Steve Oram comes off like a distant cousin of Alan Moore sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's when that was one of my kind of touchstones for Alan Moore. I got these various sort of photos of various people and who they were. He's obviously based on Aleister Crowley as well.
Yeah.
Because the Abramelin, which is in the film, is an actual thing. I mean, it's an actual ceremony. Except it goes on for longer in real life than it does in the film. I should point out that it goes on in the film for about 8 months or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry. We kind of let's get the brief premise of the film. It's about two people who kind of seal themselves inside a house to perform a ritual that will give each of them a certain gift at great risk to themselves. And the main character, well, if you can call it the main character, wants to see her son one more time. Is what we understand at the start. I think that's enough to tell anybody. We don't want to tell them too much. So yeah, but you were saying like you obviously did a lot of research. It's something that you've got an interest in. You didn't kind of lick it off the stones, as they say. Where did the beginnings of the project start for you?
Well, the beginnings of the project, I don't particularly have per se an interest in the occult. In that, it's something I pursue in the real life, in the real world. When it comes back, when I was about 13, 14, I was away in school, in a Catholic boarding school, and I was really interested in the cult when I was about 13, 14, as you are.
Fish in a barrel.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then from that period, I knew that what it wasn't and what it was, to a certain extent. And then I saw a documentary in the 2000s about Aleister Crowley, and I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't have the prior knowledge. And discovered about the Abramelin, and thought that it's suitably bonkers, and it's in one house. So then I did a lot of sort of research on the actual thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, at the time on the internet, there wasn't much about it even then.
Interesting. Again, I've read one of the Crowley biographies, so I've been aware of it, and again, his own dealings within in that world of magic. And again, the word Satan does not come much into that world, and you managed to avoid any of that as well, which was great.
Well, that's exactly right. An awful lot of it would see it as sort of aligning yourself with natural forces, or with good energy, but also sort of like tinkering with the dark side of things, obviously as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be something that sits alongside Judeo-Christianity rather than in opposition of.
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with a lot of Wicca stuff as well. I think a lot of the white witchery that goes on would have dabbled in there, wouldn't they?
Yeah. It's as I say, I just had to point out that I don't do this in real life.
I didn't think you did.
But I am now much more aware of it. Steve did an awful lot of research into it as well. So the problem is when you get to the words, some of the actual words that are used,
Mm-hmm.
you know how to pronounce them. So kind of like how we pronounce them, I'm figuring, is how they will be pronounced in the future for the rest of the world.
That's it. That's the official one now. Oh, tell me this. I mean, I think everyone seems to be contriving to make Steve Oram the unofficial king of Irish horror. I know.
Yeah, right.
How did you find working with Steve and Catherine? Because it was such an intense piece for them to do, the two-hander nature of it. I mean, I think there's only about 3 or 4 of the characters in the story. I'm not even sure that is.
There's actually only 2 other characters.
2 other characters. Sorry.
Yeah. Ignoring sort of demons and things like that.
Of course.
The damned. Steve. I saw Steve in the canal and
yes,
sightseers and such things. And then we had someone who'd been in the project project and then dropped out. And I was really, really big that the character had to Solomon had to be someone you could see on a bus or see in a pub or something. Do you know what I mean? That he wasn't a warrior from the wasteland, which is what a few people were pushing on me. Were saying, "No, we want him to be a bit sexy and a bit this." Not that Steve isn't sexy. So I was insistent we had to have Steve. Catherine came through to us through the Irish Film Board. They suggested we went with Catherine because looking for someone who was not 22.
Yeah.
And I met with Catherine. She did a read through, and she was absolutely bang on, perfect. As you know, when she's kind of these things when you're about 2 or 3 minutes into the actual reading, if they're right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an instinctive thing, isn't it? It either works or it doesn't work. There's no big kind of analytical kind of discussion, I don't think. But did you get them both together then and make sure that chemistry was working as well?
We were firstly. I had to when you go to someone like Steve, you have to make an offer. Either they do it or they don't. It's not a question of me getting them to read. So it was in the actual sort of rehearsal room that I first got Steve to read the thing, and I was absolutely so nervous. And I think the best moment of the film was when he read it, and he read it exactly how I saw it. Do you know what I mean?
It's the hard. I mean, how do you find directing actors? Now you've done it enough times now. You've 3 or 4 shorts under your belt, and obviously it's changed, and it seems there's a lot more at stake because you're under a lot of pressure because you had to, even if it's not Hollywood millions, it's money, and you want it to work out with those pressures. And as you say, such talent that's got a history and a way about them. Did you just kind of go in more relaxed, knowing they could do it? Or did you have a lot of opinion?
I come from obviously crew background, and I've done lots of, I know how to set up shots and, you know what I mean, and lighting and design and all that kind of thing. And the only I've only had, if you think about it, I've done an hour's worth of dealing with actors.
Okay.
I'm really nervous about going in with the actors. Probably the most nervous thing I was when I was approaching it. But you've got to just get on with it, haven't you?
Exactly.
So what I did with them, we did a read through, and then I had worked out a history of both the characters. Then I spent an hour with Steve and an hour with Catherine, and we went through that history, and they filled it out. Yeah, saying she did that, or he did this, and he did that. Then they had to go away for a day, and then they came back the next day, and they had to tell me their life story as that character. And both of them took about 2 hours, but it was absolutely gripping. And by that time they'd finished that, they were embedded in the character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great exercise.
I'm a big believer that, if you meet people in real life, they're full up.
Mm-hmm.
Not just empty ciphers. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that came across it really came across without you having to delve deeply into every aspect of who they were before you met them. You got it from the language and their manner. Catherine got the little bit of extra that I felt. I was wondering, like when she meets her sister, was that always a scene that you wanted, or did you feel that you needed it just to be as a safety?
Well, what I wanted when she meets the sister is then touching her at the outside world. That it isn't just the two of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That she's coming with a history, and also just to show how dark the character is at that moment in time, when placed against a normal person, and how determined and everything she is, and also that there is a lifeline for her. She wants it.
So I mean, the shoot. How long were you shooting for? Was that a 3-week, 4-week?
20 days we shot for. So.
And tell me a bit about the location and that. It was a fantastic. Was the interior, the exterior the same place, or did you mix and match?
The interior is a place in Raheny. There's a Jameson sort of like abandoned mansion, except it's not.
In Raheny Park.
Yeah, just by Rabini Park, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's an amazing looking place itself.
Yeah. It's a really weird place, right? Because we were shooting in July, and you'd have to wear inside. You'd have to wear your boots and your coats, and it was freezing cold in there. I mean, you'd get mist. Your breath would mist, and then if you go outside, it was 70 degrees. It was like the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, I wonder. Did you not find with the energy of doing something like this that it's got such a kind of, it's talking up the greater forces outside of us, whether you believe them or not. You always find people get quite susceptible if you talk enough about these things, and they will start to get a bit spooked. And maybe that cold breath thing didn't help.
On the shoot, it was bizarrely really good-natured, and I think it helped. And the crew, which I slightly like to think we instilled in them, wasn't taken terribly seriously. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The two characters, for instance, would have to line up because you're trying to get through scenes. Throwing up in the toilets.
Yes.
They would line up one after the other to vomit. When you see it like that, it looks a bit stupid.
Yeah. Well, you see, but that's
it seems all very dark and everything, but
yeah, that's
it was quite light, but it was a strange old place.
Yeah, I would say it was. I mean, there's a lot of that place has been. It's just abandoned for years, is it?
Yeah, it's been semi-abandoned. There are people living there, but they don't have running water and stuff. Living in the odd room and stuff.
Okay.
I think it's for insurance. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a strange old place. The exterior was really nice. It was down in Wicklow in I can't remember the name of the place now.
Oh,
but that was a sort of a lived-in quasi mansion. Manicure Bride. That's right.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Were all your exteriors in Ireland, or did you shoot in Wales at all?
No, it was all the Wicklow, North Wales. They look a bit similar. So,
You'll upset a few Welsh purists who know their landscapes.
Yeah. They have to be very good, though.
I spotted Dunleary train station myself, but
it's Bray train station.
Yeah.
Where it is.
So obviously a small crew, but obviously not that small. But the dynamic, as you say, was jovial. I find that the darker the subject matter, the more jovial the crew usually are.
I think that's right. Apparently, comedies, I'm told, are often really sort of mean-spirited and sort of like.
Well, it's apparently one of the most jovial sets you could ever go to in the world, where Ingmar Bergman sets.
Really?
Yeah, and you've seen his stuff. In fact, some of the mood reminded me somewhat of the likes of Through a Dark Glass, Through a Glass Darkly.
I took a lot of the mood stuff actually from Japanese films. Dark Water and
yes,
lots of the West. Yeah, I think there's an ongoing conversation between West and the East that's just been existing ever since Kurosawa and John Ford. And lots of the West have taken from Japanese film and Korean horror as well the jump scares, which really kind of sort of have their genesis there, although they're slightly more eerie there. I took the mood,
yes,
and things like Dark Water would be a very, very good example of what I would. And even things like Juan,
and Ringu as well. I mean, there's a certain creeping mood, and
that's right, of a kind of existential. There's lots of these. I've seen 80 billion of these things, and they all sort of slightly merge.
You can't creep people out, I believe, any more than they'll creep themselves out, given enough rope. And that's what I felt was wonderful about your film was. And again, without us trying to expand too much on plot, and I have to say, it's not really a plot-heavy film, to be quite honest. It is really about
It's,
the tension between the characters and the situation.
They're doing the ritual, whatever it takes. That's the plot.
Yeah, and you are kind of asking the nerve, and also what it does, what I find any deep good film does, it puts you asking the question, what would I do now? What would I do now?
It's essentially a road. This is one location films are by and large road movies.
Yeah.
It's a series of events. as you go along whatever you're doing.
Just to let people know as well, there's also a nice bit of humour in there. It's not obvious, maybe, but it's there.
Yeah, it is there. It's just to keep it. You've got to. If you're stuck in a house, right, for 8 months or whatever it is, it's not going to all be one tone. There's a few scenes that we also had that we got rid of just because you shouldn't do. I didn't think the film should go over 100 minutes. By the nature of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there were other scenes where arguing over the chicken Kiev and stuff,
Well, you kind of cut back on the eating scenes mostly in the end. I've noticed. Did you? You cut back on the eating. There wasn't as many eating scenes as I expected to find in it.
Oh, right. Well, what happens on that kind of thing is that you start having them do the same thing and talking at that, at a meal. Or and that becomes where they talk, and then it gets very dull. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Tell us this now. I mean, the film again it's been a slow burn festival piece. Now it's getting into cinemas here and in England. Yeah.
Yes. So,
and have you got any distribution in America yet?
Yeah, we're going through IFC Midnight.
Oh, brilliant!
So they're really behind it. They just released a new trailer, which is it's really got nuts in America. It must be said. So,
and there's a great. I think the American independent horror scene is quite healthy, and they'd appreciate that kind of work you're doing.
Yeah, well, there's been a kind of a sort of renaissance which we seem to be sitting into. People are comparing us to in the same line as The Witch and The Babadook, and It Follows.
Yeah,
we are kind of one of the new generation. I think it's basically there's a big reaction in horror to the jump scary kind of films. As you say, the I won't name names.
I might.
But it's become when they first came out they were cool, and some people didn't, but some are better than others.
Well, what are your plans? Do you feel you're going to stay in genre like this, or would you like to?
I've just been talking about this the other day. Is what I like essentially is high concept films. I'm a big fan of idea films where you expand things out and you sort of look at the sort of philosophical implications that are from that. But you're getting all the best stuff within genre of all that tends to veer towards high concept stuff. So I'm hoping to do. We're doing another thing now with. I've in the process of kind of finalising the draft. Do you know David Collins?
Yes, David's a champion of Irish independent film over here.
Yeah. Well, me and David are about to do our next thing, which is another horror film. So again, it would not be a jump scare film. It'd be very sort of dark and moody. I want the idea of an event that kind of runs has horror, is a scary event, but also has parallels, runs a sort of parallel beauty to it, if you see what I mean.
Yes, dread and beauty.
Dread and beauty, yes. Someone read somewhere once that in the heart of beauty is a melancholy, and that's kind of where I would be going with it, except it would be darker than melancholy.
And don't forget that line from Shakespeare's sonnet, "The cancer lurks deep in the sweetest bud."
There you go.
Liam, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. Liam, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure too. So, okay then.
Take it easy, Liam. Bye-bye.